another one.
SDETs, software development engineers in test. How important is LeetCode when applying for automation roles? Is knowing data structures and algorithms a requirement when applying to these jobs? Do you need to grind like developers do? So, I think it depends on the job that you're applying for, right? So, SDETs, software development engineers and tests, QA automation engineers, QA testers, QA engineers. There is no clear set definition of them, right? Different companies define them differently. So, for example, at my company, right, we have QA engineers, right, at different levels. So you might be a QA1, QA2. You could be a QA specialist. You could be a QA2, QA3, senior QA, lead QA, staff QA, principal QA. If you're on an individual contributor route, right? So we don't have SDETs, right? But you can consider I consider myself an SDET, right? Because of the type of work that I do. I do automation, I do infrastructure, I do frameworks, I do what else do I do? I do I said infrastructure, I can do cloud stuff. I do pretty much I do anything, right? I do API testing, I can do mobile testing, I can do anything, right? So so some companies might consider that as that. Some companies might say that, oh, that's QA automation engineer. Some companies say like it's comprehensive, right? Like you can do everything, right? You're a QA engineer. Depending like whatever level you fall in at, that's the level that you fall in at, right? So it just depends, right? It depends. So now for your question is how important is LeetCode when applying for automation roles? I would say that it is not important at all. It might be important to that company that you're applying for, but it's not important at all, right? Is knowing data structures and algorithms a requirement when applying to these jobs? It is not a requirement, right? Is it good that you know it? Sure. But what I value the most, right, is critical thinking and how do you handle situations? How do you handle challenges? Um, to me, being a QA engineer is not about data structures. It's not about algorithms. It's about mindset. It's about critical thinking. It's about strategy, right? I'll give you an example. um, I was doing a code review, right? And I asked a question, and I got an answer for it, right? But it wasn't until like 2 days later, which like today, I'm like, oh, I have another question about this, which might not be the I just have a question to ask, right? To make them think some more. When I'm interviewing people, I'm looking for how they think, their mindset, and that's one of the reasons I appreciate what Don is doing with Chaos Camp, right? Because it gives us a view into how the mind of the QA person is thinking, and those challenges also force you to become a better QA engineer, right? And they're not about algorithms or data structures. It's about getting through the mess, right? I believe that QA engineers deal with chaos on a daily basis, right? They they deal with chaos, and by what I mean by dealing with chaos is we're like firefighters, right? We're technical firefighters. Okay, we go into these roles and we're like, all right, we have to something is happening, especially when it's like a production bug, right? But we try to prevent fires in the development environment, and we're saying, okay, let's test this. Let's make sure that we don't have any bugs. Let's we have to have a comprehensive plan to make sure we try to catch as much as possible, so we do not have much customer impact. But let's say we do have customer impact. Now we have a fire. We have to deal with it. And that's what like, and that's why that you can have QA engineers who are on call, just like the developers are on call, right? Because you have to deal with these fires, and we all rally together to fix things, right? That is our goal. We want to fix things, right? So, with that being said, um, it's it's not about it's not generally it's not about knowing the data structure. It's not about LeetCode or hacker rank and stuff like that, right? It's about um, what's being asked. But at the same time, it depends on the company, because there could be a company where you're more like the SDETs are more like a QA factory, where they might only work on the framework, and they're making things available for the lower level QA testers to be able to automate. So let's say you have lower end, like, maybe manual testers, or maybe just like QA engineers who do automation, but they're just feeding off the framework. So maybe you're responsible for the framework, right? So if you are responsible for only the framework that you're making available for the lower level QAs, then at that point, the data structures and the algorithms might be more important, because you have a because you're just a developer at that point, right? You're like the name says, software development engineer and test. So you're developing for the testing infrastructure. You are not doing the full end-to-end testing, right? See, me, I take part in the full end-to-end. I'm responsible for the whole QA for the whole team, right? But if you are just playing a portion of it, right? If you're just a software developer for test, then it might become more important to be working with the data structures, the algorithms. So the lead code at that point might be more important for you. It just depends on the role that you're applying for. Do counter intel on the role that you're applying for, right? Read the description carefully, study the description, see what is the actual job that you're applying for, and then you can know how important is it going to be for your data structures and your algorithms, or for your critical thinking ability, right? Um, I don't think that there's been many jobs where I've had to. I don't think any job interview that I had where I had to like break down data structures and algorithms. Um, asking me like make a list or whatever the case may be, right? It's usually by what I am able to do, my capabilities from a critical thing. Like, here's the thing: when you get hired, right? They're hiring you for your mind, right? How do you think? How creative you are? How innovative you are? How can you push the company forward, right? Um, Anybody can answer questions about data structure. Anybody can get a certification and stuff like that. The key is, what do you have up here? How do you use what you have up here? All right. Are you creative? Are you innovative? Do you think critically? Do you stand out? Right. So that is that. All right. So yeah, I don't think the lead code and stuff like that are that critical for automation roles, right? Unless the role that you're applying for is specifically only doing development for testing. If you don't have any other involvement in the software development lifecycle, or you're on a particular project, then it might be very important, and you might need to know the data structures and the algorithms and all that type of stuff. But generally, no. And do you grind like developers do? That's a hard question to answer, right? Because developers grind in their own way, and QA grind in their own way, right? Me, I I don't grind like developers do. I grind like QA engineers do, right? And I'm always pushing forward to learn more, to do more, and to. So I'll give you an example, right? Quick example. Working through Docker to make our testing strategy better. Um, Setting up infrastructure for reporting on QA metrics, right? Um, a project I'm going to take on is like getting familiar with the AWS secrets manager to make our passwords, like how we manage our passwords, better, right? That's not a developer's role, right? I'm doing this for QA, so I'm grinding for QA. I'm grinding like QA. I'm not grinding as developers do. All right. So that is that.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.